Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thank you so much for joining us in today's webinar. My name is Jojo Maruira. I'm from IATA, based in our Geneva office. And before I hand you over to our subject matter experts, I would just like to highlight a few logistics for today's call. First, the session is going to be recorded. It will be shared to you together with other supporting documents like the presentation, FAQ, and other materials that might be mentioned during the session. There's also a question box at the right-hand side of the screen, so please feel free to type in any question that you might have, and we'll address them at the end of the session. And for today's session, we do have three subject matter experts that will walk us through on this very important topic of this afternoon. We will have Jean Ruiz and Ricardo Mate. They're from IATA, and they are from our industry data analytics team. And we will also have Baber Pervez. He's manager financial analysis from Air Canada. And with that, and without further ado, I would like to call our colleagues Jean Ruiz to walk us through on today's topic. Jean, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much for tuning in our webinar. It is a real pleasure to reconnect. I saw in the registration list and in the chat here a number of names that are familiar to us, and it's really nice to be in touch. And also, I want to say hello to those airlines that perhaps haven't participated in ACMG before, but want to learn more about it. We've tried to make, in the next 40-50 minutes, a bit of a combination to give you updates on what's been happening through to 2022, and also give you a flare gist of what is the program about and why you might be interested to participate. So if we go to the next slide, just to set up the tone for this meeting, we have the overall structure of this webinar. We're going to start with the competition law guidelines, as we always do for all cost activities. We're going to have an overview of the Airline Cost Management Program, which is what brings us all together in this webinar. What is new in 2023? And I'll try to be brief in telling you how this program is growing and increasing its scope. Ricardo Mate will walk you through the data collection of ACMG 2023 and give you some insights. We'll leave enough time for you to have some questions and answers. And let's get going. No meeting, our next slide, please. No meeting can happen without reminding you that in all cost sessions in IATA, we must avoid having any discussions, any comments on the chat that relate or can hint any of your commercial strategies, your relationship with your vendors or partners. We are in this program together to foster the use of best practices, but in no way make any other coordinations. So clear to all. Always raise a comment in the chat if you feel that any discussion is going in an uncomfortable zone for you. Fantastic. So next slide for me. As Jojo said, we are Ricardo Mate, IATA Lead of Operations for ACMG, and myself. We are the face behind the ACMG at IATA.org and work with you in the ACMG program. Myself, I have been involved with ACMG since 2017, so I'm sure you've probably come across my name in some way through these years. And Ricardo you probably all know about him because he is the person frontline receiving the data and making sure that all the deliverables come out in the quality and with the completeness that we expect. ACMG, let's start over there without further ado, is the IATA Airline Cost Management Program. As many of you know, you can see a brief of our activity and this long-standing program of IATA in our website, and it's under financial services provided by IATA. In our next slide, Ricardo, thank you. We have the overall concept of what this program exists within IATA. It exists to serve airlines that get a platform to exchange best practices, to disclose information to IATA, for us to act as a neutral party and produce anonymized benchmarks that can be used by your management teams to have further visibility on the cost behavior, cost and performance behavior of your airline, but how it compares to others. There are key principles that you see in this screen that we are all about to. First one is a strict confidentiality and anonymization of this information. This is very clear, and whenever a new airline comes to us, we go through all the documentation that actually specifies how the information is treated. This is not a bank of data. We are trying to create indicators, are giving you insights without crossing the specific information from each specific company. We work on the basis of having a fair exchange. So any airline that wants to get access to all over 100 indicators that we have on different areas of the airline business had also the opportunity to share their own information. And for those airlines that want to see the data but have not shared, we kindly invite them to look at the forms and get on with participating actively. So it's a rule that has been in place for several years, and that allows us to have a growing number of airlines. And last but not least, very importantly, we work hand in hand with an airline steering group, which are members of this program, and I'll talk about it a bit further in this presentation. So out of the program, what is it? Why is it that we're here? So the next slide, please. ACMG is the industry most comprehensive cost and performance benchmarking platform for airlines. Data comes directly from airline sources, and KPIs are produced based on the own monitoring that each airline does. We build a bank of indicators based on those KPIs that your individual airlines are using. So and these indicators keep evolving as the business also changes or the external conditions of the business changes. We have around 40 airlines each year. Some airlines leave a year, then return. Other airlines are constant and every year are with us, but all in all, we really cover cost structures around the globe and have information for multiple years. In our centralized platform, we can have indicators back to 2016. This information is properly managed under a database and embedded data policies so that information is kept confidential and no one can cross those rules. We produce annual reports, and we talk about it in a second. And very importantly, we have the largest cost management community, and it's all thanks to your interest. And we know that airlines have very limited resources, and we understand that there might be not budgets to allocate for external parties to come and help you with your cost optimization evaluations or projects. And this service is tailored for you to have access at no cost to major indicators that otherwise you would need to purchase from vendors or third parties. Industry collaboration is really the key for maintaining this program alive. In our next slide, we can see the uses of ACMG. So clearly, the goal of many of you and people across an airline is to improve the airline financial health. We're all looking for optimizing and making sure that resources are well spent. When we go through reporting or to request funds for optimization programs, it's important that there are clear targets as of what is it that we want to achieve as a result of these investments. And this is where ACMG comes to place, we give you visibility to average unit costs or average percentages of performance that you can set as a goal for your airline. Perhaps find that your company is ahead of the industry, and also perhaps see which areas are lacking. So multiple areas within an airline would be using this information, starting from finance clearly, but also procurement functions will benefit from understanding an overall an average range of expenses in which areas these are, as well as management communication. Sometimes it's very difficult to make the point that something needs to be fixed or needs to become more effective. And this tool gives you the indicators directly from airlines without any bias for you to make your case and communicate to executives. And for those that are focused on control, on cost control, it gives you the opportunity to see the evolution of this cost in time and maintain a monitoring easily by providing information to us in the association. In the next slide, we very briefly, and Ricardo will explain a bit more, the mechanics of our program. So we have a yearly life cycle for collecting information from you, engaging with airlines every year, new airlines that don't know about the program or airlines that have the goal through the year to come up with a cost optimization strategy or a new project. We receive information from airlines for a specific year, 2022 in this case, in this series, but airlines can also join and give us multiple years of data, as many as they want to analyze. On the second chunk of the year, we process information, validate. A key aspect of ACMG is comparing apples to apples, and in fact, it's our biggest challenge, making sure that the indicators that we produce are made on the basis of the same ranges of data or cost being analyzed and compared in order for the insights to become valuable to you. So those validations exist and are done from us directly one-on-one with each airline. And then we are able to ingest and disclose the KPIs in our centralized platform, the ACMG BI tool. The rest of the year is as important. Once we have information, we need to analyze it. And we create an annual report with the support of the IATA economics team. And we also run every year an annual meeting. And for a couple of years during COVID, obviously, this had to be stopped. But we started in 2022 with the first cost conference after pandemic. And the idea here is that you get to know peers doing a similar job than you're doing, and at the same time that we have an agenda that reflects those cost activities, or those activities that have become more challenging on the cost side, and that there is a discussion. So we have subject matter experts that come and address these topics with you. So that's in a nutshell the activity we have behind the scenes. And having said that, if we can go to the next slide. I just want to finish this segment by telling to all of you that have been part of ACMG for a while, what has happened in 2022, because many times we are just exchanging data and BI tool, but you don't see the program at its all extent. So we have a steering committee, a group of airlines that represent you, that hold regular meetings with us. This is not a program held by IATA behind an office in Switzerland. This is a community of airlines, and we are in constant coordination to understand what are the topics that you want addressed, and what are the areas that perhaps are less of a priority. So we do that planning towards March, and that's what happened last year as well. The data collection is always happening at the beginning of the year, And then the release, the very important part, which is for you to see the highlights, the information that gets produced. This happens as of July, August, with the meeting last year, and again through October and December when we receive information from additional carriers. The challenge in ACMG is that the annual reporting from your side may be dependent on your own auditing or financial cycle. So different parts of the world might have a different schedule. Some data might be available earlier for airlines that close their years in December and others don't. All in all, this is what we delivered in 2022, 45 airlines for the 2021 evaluation or KPIs. We have 25 airlines that came and visited us in Geneva for 2 days. And we have a very active group of airlines that volunteer to work with us on a permanent basis, the steering group with 10 members. So we are geared for 2023 now, and the blueprint will continue. Next slide, please. So with that in place, I just want to quickly remind you, what is it that you obtain as a participant of ACMG? And I've been surprised to hear sometimes that an airline doesn't use the access to an online web tool. So we want to just emphasize that all the information that you receive and a bank of information for all the years that you've been submitted information, it's available at acmg@iata.org. So I will stop there and won't go into the details, but please contact us if you want to schedule a demo session. If you're new to this environment at ACMG, we are happy to show you. The accounts that we have are personalized, and therefore we cannot just issue an account and send it on, but we can hold definitely calls and walk you through what are these KPIs that we're monitoring. Or if you are already a member of ACMG, you have 5 user accounts. So please contact us to get your login credentials and start browsing through. The second resource on the next slide, please, is the annual report we produce every year. This is an example of the annual report for 2019. And the reason why I left this here, we have a 2020 and a 2021, is because this is a special year that many in the industry are using as a baseline to try to see how much we're returning into 2019 trends. So it's a popular report, and in the screen you can see how much it represents of operations. We had over 50 airlines, and we have a section within these annual reports that explores each of the major cost ledgers. So we're talking about labor costs, flight operating costs, ground operating costs, system-wide expenses, and we have focused special areas where we feel it's important to make a point. And last but not least, as I said before, all members of ACMG are invited to join us into our annual report that for this year will take place in Geneva. It's an interesting venue to meet some subject matter experts in different areas of the business in IATA, but very importantly, have the opportunity to have a chat with our chief economist. And these sessions have become more and more interactive thanks to the leadership of our chairman. So that's it. And I know I'm taking a lot of time. I think I'll pass on now the next slide to say one more thing, but very important. Some of you have been with us for many years, and I want you to know that we have a steering group of airlines that represent all of you in ACMG, and these are the members: Air Canada, Saudia, Air Astana, Royal Jordanian, El Al, Amerijet, South African Airways, TAP Portugal, Copa, and Play Airlines are the active members that you can reach to, or maybe reach to us, and we'll put you in contact. But more so, my message to you is get involved. We can invite any airline that is interested and participates in the program to be an observer in these steering group meetings that are virtually, except for one that is in person. If you want to be part of this steering group and be more active, what are we doing? We're discussing the overall monitoring of costs, and we promote the inclusion of new KPIs. So if you are really willing to see a specific area being tracked, come and join us and make your point. With that said, I would love to introduce, and on this note, Baber Purves, who is joining us from Air Canada, and he is a person that you might know from before, as he was in IATA for some years, but now he's a financial analyst manager in Air Canada. And please, Baber, welcome and tell us, how is your experience with ACMG?
Thank you very much, Jean, for that kind introduction, and for giving me the opportunity to say a few words on ACMG. Just before I dive into the key highlights of the program and the value it brings to member airlines, including Air Canada, who's been a participant of the program for almost 10 years now. And I'll give you a brief introduction about myself. So my name is Baber Pervez, and I've been with Air Canada for almost 3 years now. I'm part of their financial evaluations team, responsible for route profitability analysis and cost benchmarking initiatives. And of course, we use ACMG data a lot, and we'll get into that in a minute. And prior to joining Air Canada, I was with Bombardier Aerospace, working as part of their airline economics team. And then before that, I was with IATA, working on various projects, including ACMG. So I think if I count the years I've been involved with ACMG, I think I can safely say it's been more than 7-8 years now. So that's my quick background. Now coming to the program itself, I know most of you already know about ACMG, but for those who are new and are sort of considering participating in the program going forward, I'll just give you a quick snapshot of the program and what value it brings to airlines who participate in the program. So ACMG is a highly granular industry-wide cost and operational data benchmarking program. And as Jean mentioned in her opening remarks, it's based on give to get principle. So airlines, provide their data in order to get aggregated insights into industry cost structures, trend developments, and best practice discussions. I think that the most useful aspect of the program is that it provides aggregated data drilled down to the aircraft level, and I think that's the kind of information that you can't find anywhere else. And I can say from experience that when I was at Bombardier and now at Air Canada, and that's that data is really useful. And the data is provided through a BI tool, allowing you to extract it in Excel, for customized analysis. So that's a bit about ACMG. And now just moving on to some of the applications of ACMG data, or how we use it at Air Canada. We use it for various benchmarking studies. We benchmark, for example, our cost structure with the industry cost structure, how well we are doing, or areas where we can improve. So we do that, and not only that, we not only compare the unit cost at an airline level, we go a bit deeper and also compare unit cost for various functions. So for example, maintenance being one of them. So we benchmark maintenance cost per flight hour of our fleets with the industry averages provided in the ACMG database. Similarly, we benchmark fuel consumption of our fleets, with the information that's provided in the ACMG. Similarly, I can go on and on. We benchmark crew productivity matrix, for example, and all this is done to identify areas of improvement and to find efficiencies in our operations. And for all these studies and benchmarking analysis, the data that we find, the data that we get in the ACMG database, absolutely vital. So airlines who haven't yet participated, I think I would urge you to consider participating in the program going forward. And in closing, I would say, Air Canada has been a participant of ACMG for a good number of years. Not only that, we've also been on the steering group of ACMG, and AC, along with other steering group members. We work very closely with the IATA team. Jean and Ricardo, who've always been super helpful, and are always there to help us in case we have questions. and we work together to define the future direction and strategy of the program. And in this regard, as Jean pointed out in the beginning, all airlines who are participating in the program, they're most welcome to attend, the steering committee meetings as observers. And for more details on, how you can get involved, reach out to Jean and Ricardo, and they'll be more than happy to assist you. So yeah, thank you very much for listening, and we look forward to your participation in the program. Over to you, Jean. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for your kind words, Baber. It's great to have the leadership of Dimitri and your insights as Air Canada. It's we really appreciate your time in the program. Moving on then to just the last 5 minutes for myself to tell you what's new. So you've all, I hope, received the invitation or the notice of the launch of the data collection in 2023, and Ricardo is going to walk us through the full details of it in a second. But you've probably noticed that we've included the section of what's new. And one important development that we have been working on during the 2022 was in crafting and deciding a new area of a study for cost benchmarks. And this is on airline retailing cost. And why did we do so? So in the next slide, please, you'll probably recognize some of the issues or the pain points that we have as airlines post-pandemic. It is clear, and IATA plays a big role on the commercial side with our DSP program, and we recognize the need for moving on the technology, on the digitalization side, from a record-centric to a customer-centric approach for our airlines, where you are in control of your offers and orders, where you have the distribution channels, as many as you think are strategic for you, in an open ecosystem with less intermediaries, and therefore more capacity to personalize to your customers. So the whole concept of moving into modern airline retailing is based on these principles, on this idea. And in IATA, we have the commitment to support airlines, whether you are in the middle or just considering doing the change. And of course, this is a change that takes some investment. And therefore, we want to be able to be transparent on the cost associated, the cost benefits associated with moving into a more modern structure. Also, in the next slide, you're going to see that we've run several studies with consulting companies. And in this chart with McKinsey, they came up with a calculation of $40 billion that are to be made in the industry as annual value creation of when airlines move into this modern structure of retailing. And out of those 40 billion that are there to be obtained, 30% come from cost savings. So that means a significant amount of the value creation that we're trying to achieve as an industry. And the means of the tool that we're creating, or this extended scope of monitoring retailing cost, is for you to know what's behind that 30% and where are you in achieving these cost savings, both on distribution and on payment activities, which are the two pillars of the modern airline retailing transformation. In the next slide, I'll show you another example of a payment study. We can move to the next. Thank you. And another consultant, Edgar Dunn, working with IATA and interviewing some of you on a one-on-one basis, also calculated that there was a 14 billion revenue opportunity when airlines create a defined strategy on their payment methods and are able to create the right mix. And out of those 14 billion for the industry, there is a 2 billion, like a 15% of what we want to achieve comes from payment cost reduction opportunities. And then again, we want to make sure that as an industry, we know what we mean, which are these cost ledgers that are creating or generating these opportunities. And last slide, and I'm conscious of time, will show you a bit more of the insight on what do we mean when we talk about distribution or payment costs. On the distribution side, it's clear we talk about cost by channel, whether it's indirect or travel agents, in whichever form it comes. And on the payment side, we're talking about cost of processing, cost of fraud, detection and prevention, and other items. And it's a 2.2% what was calculated of the bottom line of the total revenues that you obtain in a year. And it sounds like a little number, but it is an important value in money terms. So I don't want to extend too much, and there is plenty of material that we can share with you, but I hope that brings your attention to the importance of monitoring retailing costs. In the next slide, we can see what we've created. So when we say we have these new retailing cost benchmarks, what we have is a set of KPIs on the basis of payment expenses that you had in processing, in fraud, in back office, and expenses that you had on your distribution by the two clusters of distribution channels, travel agents, and direct. And of course, we're using the knowledge, all the know-how that has been built through years and has been proven successful through ACMG. Some KPIs in the next slide to give you a sense of what is it that we're measuring. We know why we need to measure. We've created this initiative, and what we want to monitor is percentages of cost to the net revenue generated in the sales of flights and ancillaries, unit cost per passenger boarded for distribution, total payment unit cost per transaction concluded for the payment side, and keep track what are the form of payments evolution, what is the form of payment that the industry is using more. Probably many of you have an idea about that, and what is this the speed of growth of new form of payments that have started to be implemented in some regions more rapidly than in others. So there is a series of performance and cost indicators that are part of our new initiative. And if I move to the next slide, I will probably see some screenshots. And we won't have time to go through this because this seminar is about you participating on ACMG, but these slides will be given to you in this deck, and you will have the opportunity to see more if you're interested to send your ACMG form completed and then work with us in filling out the forms to get access to these sites or another scope of the tool. So how to participate? Contact us, the ACMG team, and we'll give you all the details and the mechanics on how to enlarge your participation in our cost optimization platforms. With this said, I appreciate your interest, and I think it's time to hear from Ricardo on the data collection 2023. So over to you, Ricardo.
Thank you very much, Jean, and hello everyone. I hope you can hear me and see me well. Something also to mention is that we will be giving you our contact information as well by the end of the call. So in case you're interested in the retailing or ACMG itself, or you have any questions. So I want to talk about the data collection itself because we've talked about, well, the ACMG program and the participation. So I would like to kind of deep dive a bit more on how to contribute the data, what is that you're expected to contribute, and as well give more of a detailed view on the data that we're capturing that we're going to show you after, so that you can benchmark yourselves against other airlines and your peers. So the main way that we collect the data is through our data collection form. So this is to make it easy for you. It's on an Excel file basis, and we will tell you after what do you need to do in order to get it if you haven't gotten it yet. But as you can see on the screen, it's an Excel sheet which has a bunch of tabs in which you will be able to fill in your data. Before you go ahead, you will need to accept the terms and conditions of participation. Just also to note that, of course, the data collection for this year we call it 2023 data collection, but it responds to the financial year 2022 because we do follow financial reporting and financial calendars as well. Also, that the data is reported in USD. Yeah. So the first form, just to, in a nutshell, we collect revenue and employment metrics. So in short, we collect revenue sources, so passenger, cargo, ancillaries, and so on, financial performance metrics, such as operating margins, and then employment metrics, such as divisional breakdowns and the different salaries and compensations of each of them. On form 2, it's really focused on operational performance, and we also do the breakdown by aircraft type. So on the main expense side, we collect flight operations data, ground operations data, and system operating expenses. So for instance, in the flight operating expenses, you can see that we capture, flight deck crew, flight equipment insurance, flight equipment depreciation, amortization, aircraft rental costs, air navigation charges, etc. And then similar with both system operating expenses and ground operating expenses. But we also cover other categories, such as traffic and capacity metrics, which some already report in their annual filings. But it's also good because we use these metrics to standardize and do comparable metrics for airlines, as well as operational data, such as fuel, kilometers flown, landing, block flight hours, and so on, and operational performance, which is also very helpful in terms of benchmarking as well from an operational point of view. Finally, we have unit KPI and unit cost validation. So in the Excel sheet, you will see something similar to this. And what this will allow you to do is when you fill in your data, you will be able to compare how your data is versus other reportings, or at least on the size of what are other reportings from other airlines, meaning that if you have made any mistakes or you are really out of the range that we report, you will be able to see it here and hopefully correct it before you send it to us. Although even if you do make any mistakes, we will do a lot of data, as Gina has mentioned, is very thorough data evaluation. So we will be also more than happy to reach back to you in case we have any questions of the data that you've reported. But this should hopefully be able to allow you this and the other tab will help you to see whether the reporting you've done is along the values that we should be expecting. And as well, you can see also what a standard, for instance, airline cost structure looks like. Last but not least, so once you've completed this form, what should you do? So the submission of the data is done through acmg@iata.org, which will also be the same point of contact that you will use for any other questions, including participation in the retailing if you want more information, or you have any questions about the program itself, or you haven't received, because some of you have received already the data package. If you've participated already in the past, or if you haven't and you wish to participate, then you can contact us and we'll be happy to guide you through the program if you want more detail, or give you the participation package directly through there. So the submission of the data is done through ACMG at IATA as well, and we thoroughly validate the data before the submission to the BI tool. So as Jean mentioned before, the BI tool is one of our core services that we offer through the program, where you can see visually all the data that you've contributed, as well as the benchmarks of other airlines. So we will give you access to the BI tool, and everything related to that you can also contact us through ACMG. Also, I forgot to mention that we have a comprehensive set of reporting instructions. So you're not supposed to guess what each of the fields are. We have, a thorough document where you can read and see for specific fields how are they supposed to be reported, what do they include, and so on. But of course, we remain at your disposal as well in case you have any questions. And then regarding the key dates, so important to know that submissions are open until August 1st, although we highly encourage to report before that if possible, because our target for this year for the launch of the benchmarks is September 1st. And we have experience from other years that it takes perhaps, especially for new participants, a little bit of back and forth on the data, on questions. So we would highly encourage you to start your reporting really as soon as possible, but we will close it officially on August 1st. If for any specific reasons you think that you might not be able to submit by August 1st, then we would please encourage you to let us know in advance so we can work on our plan and perhaps extend the deadline, although the first launch of the data will not count with your data if you have if you have contributed after August 1st. So this is it from my side. So if you're thinking of joining, or if you are already in the program and you haven't received the data, or you have any other questions, please reach out to us at the email on your screen, and we will be more than happy to assist you in any way. We have a set of FAQs that I will not go now because I want to have some time to answer questions as well while we're on the call. But these slides will be given to you after the meeting. So with this in mind, I perhaps hand it over to you, Jojo, since you maybe have received any questions, or now it would be the time to ask any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I would also like to welcome back Jean, Ricardo, and Baver for any questions that might be for you. So first question here, maybe for Ricardo, is that are we expecting an annual report for ACMG once we participate in this? And if yes, what's the difference on the annual report versus the online tool that we can play around with?
Yeah, sure. So the annual report is given on a yearly basis, meaning that if you participate for 2023, meaning financial year 2022, the annual report will be made available to you by the end of the year. So we haven't talked about the date, but I think that we were targeting end of November. So end of November, the annual report will be made available to you. If you would like other annual reports from past years, or you would like to have access to previous years, this is also possible, and I think that this is a great lead to the question. If you contribute data, let's say for 2019, since it's a gift to get program, you will have access, or we will grant you access to 2019 data on the BI tool and the annual report. So you can, even if you haven't participated up until now and you would like to contribute 4 years worth of data, that is certainly possible, and we would make sure that you would have access to the benchmarks correspondingly.
Perfect. And Ricardo, can you just clarify, is this free of charge or with a fee to participate on this program?
No, ACMG as it stands today is free of cost to airlines and for airlines. So it's only based on gift to get purposes.
Thank you. And there's a question here for Eugene regarding the meeting that you were showing a while ago. Is this open only for those who are participating on a ACMG, or any airline can actually participate on this meeting?
So the steering committee or the steering group It's the representation, or has a representation of participating airlines to ACMG. So everyone that you've seen is an active participant, and we normally have observers, our new members, we ask them to become participants if they're not. But if you have an interest, do please reach out, because we understand sometimes you want to see or have a better understanding of how your data is managed, and we can certainly have an observer view. But to become a member, you have to be an ACMG participant.
And do we already have the date for this year, for the next meeting?
The annual meeting. The annual meeting is our event happening normally between August and September. We haven't figured or pinned out the exact date, but this will probably be communicated during the months of July, early in July. And again, all airlines that are participants to ACMG are invited to join. So we really hope you can consider joining us and come to Geneva and meet peers working also in our program.
Thank you. And there's a question here for Air Canada. I think out of curiosity is that what's in it for AC or Air Canada to be part of the steering group of ACMG, and they also get to shape the KPIs available on this BI tool?
Yeah, so thank you, Jojo. That's a very good question. So I think, if you're on the ACMG steering group, you get the chance to add value and enhance the value of the program, right? So you are basically, you can steer the program, you can add, for example, the list of KPIs that Jean mentioned, if let's say there are some KPIs that you would like to be included, additional KPIs, on the steering group. If you're on the steering group, you can voice that, and then that feedback would be taken into consideration, and then IATA team would, start collecting the data corresponding to those KPIs. So it's basically it's a body which sort of steers the program forward.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Mentioning about KPI, Jean, do we add new KPIs on a yearly basis? How does it work?
Yes, so we are constantly validating with the steering group for KPIs that we may be missing. Some because there are new costs, for example, due to new regulations that are imposed on the industry. So if that's the case, then we debate and we create the definitions, of course, of what we want to monitor. It doesn't happen like we have a major revision. The large majority of the KPIs are constant, but we do incorporate new metrics. And the best example perhaps to give is the pandemic. We clearly had a disruption of all cost structures, and there were sections made specifically for deferrals and also for government subsidies, which was something that was quite common across the industry. And as of this year, I take the opportunity to say that we are going back to our original form. So it's a live form, and it's meant to adjust to the business needs that you have. If you have an idea, a suggestion for new KPIs, you've been in ACMG and have been wondering, please reach out to us because we could discuss them on the steering group meetings.
Thank you. And Ricardo, a question for you. Can you give us an estimate in terms of what is the work or average time needed to be able to actually gather all this information required on this BI tool?
Yeah, so I think for that I might put Baver on the spotlight, but just a remark. I mean, since he's the one that he's been contributed and he would know definitely thoroughly. Just one thing that we do get a lot from airlines is that collecting the exercise of actually collecting the data and putting all the data together is something that it's usually beneficial in a way, because it also helps to put visibility and to put some order as well onto where the data lies and how to access it on a much more standard or concurrent basis. But as how much, I guess it depends on the airline, but perhaps Robert can give some little better
Yeah.
insight on
You're
what.
good. No, thank you, Ricardo. I think you covered it mostly. Yeah, again, it depends on the airline. If you have, for example, a large operation like ourselves, we have Air Canada mainline, we have Rouge, we have the regional operations, right? So if you have if you have a model similar to ours, then probably it would take you longer versus if you have only one carrier, right? And I would say it takes about, for us it takes about 10 to 15 days. Uh, 10 days if you really focus on this and you don't focus on anything else. So it's not super tedious, but again, it depends on your systems. It depends on how automated your systems are. But I wouldn't say it takes more than 10 to 15 days.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Jean, there's a question here regarding the new information that you have shared. Is this totally separate from ACMG, the airline retailing cost benchmark, or it's on the same tool?
So we have a participant package very similar to ACMG that has definitions, forms, because we're really following the same methodology. And within IATA, we see all cost optimization activities as a one. But for participation, we ask you to complete the ACMG form and separately to fill the cost retailing form. We understand there are also different teams that need to look at this from the commercial side. So please, the team is the same. We have two different forms, but you can definitely ask us for getting the two packages. And the
Perfect.
output on a dashboard, sorry, just to complete that is not integrated in the ACMG tool. There is a reason for that. We're launching this activity right now, and we want to make sure that during 2023 we can receive the feedback from all the new participants that are joining before we can stabilize a benchmark for the future.
Perfect. Maybe for Jean or Ricardo, is that how do we benchmark? Or how do we do the benchmarking, considering there are different scales of airlines participating on this tool?
I can take that. Yeah, I can take that one. So we do, well, of course, there are different business models. There are different airlines. So first of all, we do, one of the things that we do is we do regional breakdowns to understand, all the different regional nuances. But most importantly, all of our calculations are unit based. So we try to understand, where do each airline rank on the unit base, and we do show that at an individual base, but anonymized. So you would be able to see, for instance, the CASK for a range of airlines, where and you would see, okay, maybe which are the low cost carriers on that graph, but you would not be able to identify which one is who, of course. You will be able to see, what type of airlines are included on that. And we have cargo airlines as well. So if you're thinking about entering cargo operations, or you have a cargo operation for yourself, you can try to understand, what type of KPIs you should be looking to achieve in terms of your cargo operations. But as well, you have for instance, which airlines are profitable, and you have other ways to understand, how to compare yourself accurately and properly.
Perfect. Just to understand, Ricardo, just to confirm that I will not be able to know who are the participating airlines, right?
No, you will be able to know how many airlines there are, and if you are really interested, we can tell you approximately how many numbers of each business model there are, or per regional basis. That is something that we can share, and that you have access on the tool. So last year we reached around 45, similar to the year prior. This year we're expecting to grow a little bit, so perhaps 50, maybe more, but that would be the range. And what I can tell you already is that we do have airlines from all business models and all regions, because it's quite a large operation already.
And maybe the last question for the day is that would you be considering taking up KPIs for sustainability products, i.e., customer contribution on SAF, etc.?
Yes, and let me have a word on that, because it's clear that all the sustainability area is creating additional costs for our business, and that it's important that this is measured and communicated to our customers. And within IATA and the Board of Governors, this is a topic. And of course, internally, we are discussing how IATA can assist in bringing forward this transparency on prices due to sustainability. So we don't have in 2023 incorporated any indicators on this front, but thank you for the point, and we are aware of the priority of this monitoring. So stay tuned. Probably by 2024, we'll have more insights for you.
Perfect. Before we close the call, Jean, Ricardo, any last words, any feedback, last details before we close the call?
Just from my side, maybe just reach out to us, acmg@iata.org, and I mean, just to remind you our email address, and maybe Jean, I'm sure you have something to say as well.
No, remember, this is a platform built for IATA at your service. We want to have all of you having the chance to access the indicators and benefit from the insights. So please come to us if you have any difficulties to fill out the forms. We are also here to help. For us, the bottom line is the financial health of airlines. So don't hesitate. We are here for you. And thank you very much for making the time to listen to us today.
Thank you so much. And as I have mentioned at the beginning of the session, we'll be providing you the recording of the session, the supporting documents, and other materials that might be useful for you to make the decision to actually join ACMG. And with that, thank you, Baber, Jean, and Ricardo, and have a good day to everybody.
Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.